Sit closer to
Yeah.
you guys.
Okay.
Guys under
Yeah,
control.
yeah.
I'd rather do it that way.
Don't worry about Charlotte. No.
Well, I got a Kent Roosevelt game. They're playing Aurora.
Nothing that we.
He gave that one, and then we got a Thursday night game because of the Jewish holiday. Because is Twinsburg Jewish
Pleasure.
community? No, the community.
Not any more than any other one, not that I know of.
See how nice that was? I gave you a head count.
I know, but it said we got a Thursday night game because of the Jewish holiday.
Well, a lot of people observe Jewish holidays just as a courtesy, to their citizens.
And that one's Twinsburg at Nordonia.
Well, they have to use
That's some
that,
close ones, big guy.
I realize
I
that.
guess.
Yeah, but you know what's really bad?
Doesn't
about
make it any easier
I
for me
told you
to.
about that Medina.
No, because I was wondering what he was
We
doing
got
over there.
Medina the week
I would expect that as a good staff.
Island at Medina, so we better keep Medina from chatter, right?
Especially.
That's the only bad thing about that, you know what I mean? You remember.
Out there reeling.
She's famous.
Yeah,
Give them a little space.
What week is that?
that makes sense.
Which is,
Week 7?
Wish I had every employee do that to me. There's a few exceptions.
But I got 4 double headers now during the week, 7th and 8th grade. I like that because it's $74 and you don't have to go. I'm doing the best I can. You made me look bad.
kids, he had a problem. You said, I quit in 3 months. I said, Dad, but you gotta give 2 weeks.
Hey, by the way, the mayor looks good in construction outfit.
That guy every day, right?
You look like a burly looking guy.
You're agreeing?
I had a lot of clothes on. It was cold. It started out cold. You know what?
Coming back around.
Good for you, man. I was glad to see you there, Ed.
That's good training.
That thing is really moving along quick.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's being recorded, you know, you can watch anymore. We're doing away with those tests.
I know.
Okay.
Even in the interview process, we run into this, and I gotta have people who pass drug tests and all that.
That's good. It's wonderful.
Pharmacy,
I won't have to look anybody in the eye.
pass a drug test. So,
You don't have to look at anybody.
That's right.
oh, well. And she just got up and left.
Wow.
Friend of mine has to do,
We're good.
Are they set up and ready
I'd
to
like to
go
put
when
a
we get
circular
there?
thing in here so I
Are
can
they
see
set up and ready
everybody.
to go when we get there? Okay.
I gotta go like this.
Ready?
Yeah, right
Good
there.
time with me.
All right.
they can't get people to clean.
I call the Norton City Council Committee work session for Monday, March 2nd, 2020 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Gaynor?
Here.
Mr. McClone?
Here.
Mr. Carrot?
Here.
Mr. Towsley?
Here.
Ms. Whipke?
Here.
Mr. Pelot?
Mr. Pelot's excused.
Mr. Kernan?
Here. Under communications from the public, we're going to start out with letter A, Tom Todd presentation, Norton City Schools. And if you'd be sure to talk right into that microphone so everybody out there can hear you.
Sure. Good evening, City Council Administration. Today we would like to present our Heroes for Hope Tom Todd group. Tom Todd stands for Tomorrow's Ideas Today, and this is a group of 6th graders from Norton Middle School who came up with an idea to create some change in the community, and so we would like to present their presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Chloe Womble. Aubrey Tewksbury. Aurelia Lanter. Emily King. Jalen Farmer. Speak up a little
It's okay, just speak up.
Yeah, just talk a little bit louder. You're fine. We're all friends here. Don't worry about it, okay? Everything's fine, okay? We want to hear what you have to say, so everybody does, so let's be nice and loud.
Welcome everybody. We're Here's the Hope, the Tom Todd Group, where today we're going to be presenting the Columbia Woods Mental Health Pathway Proposal.
Our mission is to help both children and adults cope with stress and mental illness. People will be able to reflect and make connections as well as participate in coping strategies that reduce stress and worry. So you ask, what is the problem? People are suffering from mental illness nationwide, but there is a large impact in our state and community. Mental illness can affect people of any age, race, religion, or income.
United States statistics. 19.1% of U.S. adults experienced mental illness in 2018. Anxiety disorder is the most common mental illness in the U.S., affecting 40 million adults ages 18 and older. Also, nationwide, an estimate of 7.7 million children ages 6 to 17 have at least one mental health disorder. Ohio statistics. In 2017 in Ohio, 31% of high school students reported feeling sad or hopeless every day for nearly 2 or more weeks. That is a high percentage. 17% of high school students reported they thought about committing suicide, and of these, 7% attempted suicide. In Ohio, on average, over 100,000 children and adolescents between the ages of 12 and 17 suffered from a major depressive episode in 2017.
What can we do to help resolve this problem? With your approval, we would like to make a mental health pathway around the pond of Columbia Woods Park. This path would incorporate the walking trail that is already being constructed in the park. We would like to put our surrounding the trail of Phase 1 and Phase 2 of your project. We understand Phase 2 is still in the funding phase, and we are willing to work with you as this phase is brought to completion. If you look at the screen, Phase 1 is blue, which is already completed. Phase 2 is the red part, which it's going throughout the woods that is still in the funding process.
What is the learning look like? This path will consist of benches and activities that are strategically posted around this part of the path. Benches will have inspiring quotes and great work. Activities will be centered around helping people feel the stress. Part of the path will also have flower gardens and activities. How we vision our benches. We would be looking to place approximately 6 benches around the park with a positive, uplifting quote engraved on each bench. Examples of quotes for our benches would be, "Life is tough, and so are you. Every moment is a fresh beginning. Storms don't last forever. Today is a perfect day to be happy, and what consumes your mind consumes your life."
How we vision our activities. We would like 6 activities on one at each bench around the path. Activities would be a progression building on the first activities as you walk around the path. Examples of activities. Bench activity number 1, deep breathing. Activity 2, mindfulness exercise. Activity 3, muscle relaxation and body scan. Activity 4, imagery. Activity 5, yoga and meditation. And activity 6, strength of the mind exercise.
Vision of flower garden and gathering place. We would like to place 1 hexagon table, a Nova brand, like what is already placed in the pavilion, with a surrounding flower garden in one area of the path. We are looking at a flat piece of land behind the tennis courts that is shaped in a U. We are wanting to place that here.
Pricing. We know that the Nova benches have previously been quoted at $755 per bench without the engraving. We are still researching the cost of the hexagon table and activity signs. We also understand that each bench and sign would need cemented into the ground at additional cost. We plan to raise proper funds by reaching out to local businesses asking for a sponsorship of an activity sign. For example, we would engrave the sponsor of each activity onto a small plaque placed on a signpost.
We plan to hold fundraisers within our school building and within our community. We seek out community assistance in areas of knowledge. For example, we have Eagle Scout who has agreed to sponsor the table and flower garden as their service project. We would also intend to reach out to our masonry program to see if they would help with installation of benches and activities. For example, cement anchors.
By including businesses, community organizations, and school groups together in this project, we can really show our Panthers
Roar together
for the benefit of everyone.
Will you make our community a healthier place to live?
Thank you so much. I guess we have some things to discuss, huh? Thank you. So, Mayor, what's the next step here, huh?
Well, that's basically, we've had some discussions, and I know that we're planning on having a few more.
Okay.
But wanted to bring the presentation to City Council so that when we bring and we come to you guys, then at least you'll have an understanding of what we're looking to address.
Great. Appreciate it. It was a very fine presentation. You did a great job, too. Nice job.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, moving on with communications from the public. Mr. Jim Lino.
I just want to talk a little bit about this school income tax thing we had. I think a couple of weeks ago that maybe it was mentioned that maybe we was going to have some kind of a meeting because some people were a little bit confused on it. And believe me, I was confused, and I'm happy to hear that somebody else was too. Now, it doesn't, and it was also stated that the council or city, that's not their responsibility for this business. But when I seen my real estate taxes didn't go down a dime, I thought I must have missed the boat on something. So I went up to the school to see if I could get a clarification on it. When I went in there, they says they have no idea what I'm talking about. And I said, well, you know, the superintendent had a speech about it and stuff. We don't know nothing about it. Go down to the administration building and maybe they know. So I went down there, and of course they, you know, what they said, yeah, that's true. They had nothing to do with the real estate taxes, evidently. So I got confused, and I thought maybe we were going to have some kind of a meeting or get together to maybe find out just exactly what he meant, what he was talking about here. So that's the only thing I wanted to touch up on.
Thank you. Michael Stack.
Michael Stack, 3004 Union Street. Good evening, everyone. So, just a couple questions. Property maintenance agreement or code, or how far along are we on it? Are we anywhere on it?
I know that the administration is getting some stuff together to bring to us, and so we should start working on it within the next few weeks, I think.
And then the property at the corner of Union and 23rd that the city owns, are we going to get that cleaned up? And then do we know anything what's going on behind me? It's been all rezoned, correct, right now, or do we know anything more?
It has been rezoned. I know that there's a project taking place up there now, and
up on the back, yeah, Clinton Aluminum, but directly behind me, I didn't know if we knew.
I don't think so.
No plans yet? Okay. And who do I need to speak of to possibly repave my road? Where do I go with that to? The mayor, my councilman, or?
I would go to both of them.
And I think you just did to some degree.
Could look at that. I really appreciate it.
Just for clarity, this year's program's already kind of underway, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. All right. Committee of the Whole, updated codified ordinances, Mr. McGlone.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have, this is where we update the American Legal Publishing Corporation, where they update our all the ordinances that we put in place of 2019. And we have this company put these updates into the from the ordinances and everything to keep us up to date. And I'd like to get that on next week's agenda. Does it matter if it's waive the second and third, get this thing going, because it's like we do it every year.
Yeah, I mean, the codifieds are already updated.
Exactly.
This is the
yeah.
official source stamp
So
on
I'm
it,
going to
so.
move to update, also suspend the second and third readings also for next week's agenda.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to add ordinance number 30, 2020 to next week's agenda for first reading. Any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
And then just to be clear, the intent is to waive second and third.
Yes.
All right, letter B, floodplain management standards, Mr. Gaynor.
Thank you, Joe. This is an attempt to bring up to date the floodplain areas, regulations concerning them, like the 100-year floodplain setbacks and what it takes to build close to these areas and such. And we haven't updated this in quite some time, and it was recommended by the city engineer that we do this. And I've read through this quite a bit, and I find a lot of things in there that there are some good regulations that we should be following very closely. And I hope in the future that we do follow those regulations, because there's been some things come up in the not-so-distant past. This should have been looked at that time. So I'm in favor of this 100% and hope to get it on the next agenda. Thank you.
All right, is that a motion then to add
Yes,
ordinance?
it is.
Okay.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to add ordinance number 31, 2020 to council's next agenda. Do we need to waive readings, or are we good?
I think we can have full readings. I just wanted to mention that this is model legislation that's required to comply with the National Flood Insurance Program. So the engineer brought to our attention, we modified it to the places you can't modify to tailor towards Norton. But in order for us to be able to have flood insurance within the city, it's something we need to pass.
So this is like, you want flood insurance in the city, this is what you got to have.
Right.
Also, excuse me, Justin, also it was mentioned that we would like to see, if possible, what changes were made in the new one as opposed to the old one.
Oh, the old codified ordinance section?
Yes.
Okay. I could my assistant run a red line to try
That's
to
what
put
I'm
those
getting
together.
at, yes.
Yeah.
If
It's
you
pretty
would.
much a comprehensive rewrite, so it may come out gobbledygook, but I'll do our best to figure out what changed.
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes, Mr. Towsley.
The comment was made if we want flood insurance within the city. Is that for residents, the city, both?
For any flood insurance to be issued within the city, a policy to be issued within the city.
Okay, so this would benefit residents
Yes.
directly as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I can give an example that I wanted to build a home not too long ago, and I could not get a septic system put in due to the soil samples that was taken. And I could have built that home if we had a sewer line in there. And the reason I couldn't move it any farther was if I would have went another 50 to 60 feet, I would have been in a floodplain, and I couldn't have afforded the insurance on it because it would have put me in the floodplain. So there's a lot of residences and businesses that probably would not be developed due to the exorbitant cost of the insurance if this National Flood Insurance Program wasn't in effect. So we definitely need to have this national flood insurance program.
Any further comments? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Letter C, Wayne Street Settlement, Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's actually a settlement we've been working on for several years now and have finally reached a conclusion on it to where we're going to be paying Ms. Constance Herman $20,000 in 2 installments once the stipulation conditions are met in paragraph, I think it was 2 and 3 or something like that. But anyway, it's a total of $20,000. Like I said, it has been on the edge of being done here for several years, and we're coming to the end of it, and this is through the court. And at this time, I would make a motion to add ordinance 32, 2019 to council's next agenda. I don't believe need to waive any second and third readings.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, we can go the full 3 readings, and it does have emergency language.
I will second that. Is there any further discussion regarding ordinance number 32, 2020? Just for everybody's knowledge, this lawsuit was actually filed back in November of 2017, and it's been going on since then and before then. And I know we've been talking about this since before I first came on council, so. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter D, highway mower purchase, Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was back in last month. Anyway, we had passed an ordinance 18-2020 to buy a highway mower to where we were having $5,000 taken off of the total price as a trade-in, and since that time, it's come to our attention that we're further ahead keeping that and not giving it up, that we can use it. So we're looking to repeal ordinance 18, and this is going to, ordinance 33, 2019 is going to replace it, where it's already repealed within the ordinance. And as far as I can see, anyway, we had a bunch of parts and stuff that we can use, and we're just going to be paying the full price now of $82,065 as opposed to the $77,000 that we had proposed back before. There is no emergency language. We don't have to waive any readings. So at this time, I would motion to add ordinance 33, 2019 to council's next agenda.
Point of order, it's 2020.
2020.
2020.
What did I say?
2019. That's okay, just
2020.
clarification.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will second that. There's a motion, a second, to add ordinance number 33, 2020 to council's next agenda for a first reading. Is there any further discussion or questions?
Mr. Hess is here. Can you add anything, or did?
Basically, we don't need to rush in that. We have two tractors that we could possibly trade in at a later date. So doing the full price is the cleanest, best way to do it, and buying this thing. And then we could look at possibly trading on something else. But we do have a good point of use for that tractor that was initially going to be traded in. So
What are we going to use it for, Mr. Hess?
we have a side mowing capability inside of the city.
Okay.
So we could simultaneously mow ditch lines.
Okay.
And do the highway at the same time.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter E, MOU for resurfacing Medina Line Road. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. President. We've been talking about doing Medina Line Road, again, one of those things we've talked about for a while. This is going to go from Eastern to Greenwich Road, Medina Line. We are working with, this is with Medina County, correct? Mm-hmm. Medina County to do this. Total cost estimate is $855,000, and that's without the preliminary engineering. Did we already do that? Did we already do the preliminary? So we don't have to even, we've already been through that. 80% of that is going to be paid by the federal MPO STPG funds, up to $381,000, so it's really not 80%, correct?
Correct.
It's 80% of the first $381,000.
No, it's, to be clear, what Mr. White had done was he had gotten us 80% for the construction of Medina Line between Greenwich and Johnson, which was at the time estimated to be $381,000.
Okay.
And we subsequently agreed in order to get that money to pay for the rest. The bids came in last Friday at $600,000, so it's about 4/6 or 2/3, just under 60% of the total project cost. And we're going to split 10% is going to come from Medina County for their portion of the road, and the remainder will come from our funds, our permissive tax funds at the county. We will also have an agreement with Medina County that we will pay 10% of the cost from Greenwich Road north to the city limit line, because they're going to do all of Medina Line this year, and we will cover our 10% because they have an 80% grant from NOACA to cover that portion. So it's probably going to be a wash, but it really is, 10% for both of us.
Nobody has anything to add to that or ask any questions, then I make a motion to add ordinance 34, 2020 to council's next agenda, and we're going to be looking at waiving at least the third reading, if not the second, but definitely the third, and it does have emergency language.
I'll second the motion to add. There's a motion and a second to add ordinance number 34, 2020 to the next agenda for first reading. Is there any further discussion or questions? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter F, tap-in fees, Eastern Road. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. Kernan. This is where we put the water line in on Eastern Road. And this is for the connections for the people to get per benefit, of which was being proposed $14,705. It's about the same deal that we had given over for the Loyal Oak, to where the people can pay in full, or the businesses, or make monthly installments with the businesses or commercial industrial properties getting 5 years to make those installments. And the residents will have up to 10 years, and the installments will get added to the water bill. None of the residents are being required to do this. It's strictly by choice. So at this time, I make a motion to add ordinance 35, 2020 to council's next agenda with emergency language.
First reading only?
Yes.
And I'll second that motion. There's a motion and a second to add ordinance number 35, 2020 to the next agenda for first reading. Is there any further discussion or questions?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Towsley?
I just have a couple technical questions on the ordinance itself. In the first line, it says it's for water and sewer. Should that only be water?
It should be 100% should be only water. I apologize. I was using the Cleveland Maslin Road ordinance trying to make the edits, and I missed that edit.
Where was that? I missed it
It's on
too.
the ordinance in the header.
It's like the bold
the header.
heading at the top. And then in section 3, that might just be my misunderstanding, but the first two sections talk about how we'll allow people to make payments. Section 3, the third line down, says that the tap-in benefit charges have to be paid in full before they can connect. Am I misunderstanding, or is that contradicting itself?
Should it be
Yeah, probably say
pay
shall
in
be
full
paid or provided for.
or make
Or in a
arrangements
payment
or
agreement.
legal or
Right,
something?
right. We can change that language to
Just wanna make
refer.
sure.
Yeah, it's either going to be paid or they're being on payment. They have to be on payment plan
Thank you.
prior to connecting.
Any further discussion or questions? Having made those changes, then when it comes to us, it'll just be changed as the ordinance, right? It won't be
Yeah, because it's not been introduced yet.
Right. All right. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter G, Land Clearing Services Extreme Tree. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I understand it, this is for clearing the trees and brush along Route 21 from eastern to north up to 76. And we have a bid for $25,000, not to exceed $25,000, as I understand it. And I know, did we find out, were there any other bids on this, or we didn't have no other proposals?
We had solicited several other companies. Mr. Hess is here. He would be happy to answer. We had solicited several other companies to provide us a cost, and several were reluctant. But
I noticed they did it in Copley. Is that the same company? No.
We've tried to get a number of companies, and I tried multiple times, and I actually went out and showed them the scope of the work, and they said they had every intention of giving us a price, and did not. Followed up a few times and just kind of got frustrated. Extreme Tree provided a more of like an hourly type of price that was basically a bargain from what the initial price of bid. So we decided to go with that, and we're, they've, so far so good. They've done a pretty good job. And that other company that you noticed in Copley, that was actually the state. I think
That was the state that did that? Okay.
Yeah, they use, it's called a FECON system. And then if you go to south of 21, there's actually a contractor doing some work there, and we're interested in possibly having them do some work for us, possibly.
Okay.
So what are they doing? Just cutting and shredding? Is that what?
As far as in our
area, yeah.
Yeah, where it's feasible, that's what they're doing.
Okay.
30 feet back, it's as far as we got. I mean, we try to get a little farther down the road. Ideally, we'd love to go to the fence line, but that's more money. We're trying to make the problem on the edge of the roads go away.
Okay.
And there's as many trees that need cut going the other direction, southbound on 21 as well. So, but it's not a small project. It's going to take some time and some money to put after it. And a lot of the work is past the scope of my department to do, so we definitely need help.
Okay. Mr. Hess, do we have any idea how many trees this includes?
No, Paul, that would be difficult to assess that. I can say a lot. That's about.
Well, for myself, I'd like to know approximately how much per tree because this is pretty general. $2,500 a day, what are we getting done in a day? I mean, can they tell us how many trees they can take down in a day?
That's something I definitely didn't count trees. I just kind of would go out there and make sure they were getting after it. Where they could just lay them down and not chip them up, we would do that. But where there's big trees or smaller trees, some brush, just kind of clear cut and everything. So.
Well, you have a limit of 25,000, so does that mean they indicated to you it would take 2 weeks or less, or?
No, we're setting up a work zone for them. We're shutting off a lane for safety. And we don't set it up until after 9 o'clock because of the traffic. So they're working from 9 to 3, and it's taken more than 2 weeks, because some days they don't work. If there's a rain event, they don't work. Sometimes they have jobs that they are doing outside of our work, just giving them some flexibility, and that's why they were able to give us a price, as they did, a little bit better price.
Well, without a quote to compare to and not knowing, how do I make the decision if this is of value or not? You understand what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, Paul, what was that?
How do I, for my vote, how do I know we're getting a value if we don't have another quote to compare to?
I don't
how
have
many trees are taken down?
I understand. I don't have a way of assessing like value that way.
So just so I'm clear, the job is not defined by the time period. It's defined by the distance. They're doing a certain amount.
No.
No.
It's more, let me just, it's a time and materials.
Okay.
So essentially, the amount of time that they spend on the job, we're paying for that service. It's really hard to do a per tree. We tried. I think we got 100, and the one quote we got was $130,000, which was it's not feasible for us to do anything of that magnitude. I can try to get the ODOT state contract, but again, it's time and material. And that's what they're using, Midwest Land Clearing Services. They're doing that south of the city on south of Eastern on 21. That's Midwest Land Clearing, and that's their time and materials as well. I mean, I know we solicited Davy Tree. We've contacted at least 4 other people to try to get quotes, and we just have not gotten anywhere.
Are these trees over a certain diameter,
It's,
or just anything that's left?
it's basically anything, it's like a clear cut. We're trying to eliminate all the dangers alongside the road.
So it's not just dead trees,
It's everything.
okay.
It's everything. It's a good question, Paul, but it would be very difficult to evaluate it that way. And the only thing I have to go, they've worked with us prior to and have always done a good job. So I have no reason to believe it, and they currently are doing a good job. So I'm happy with what they're doing. But it's an expensive process, it really is.
Just to be, we authorized up to $4,700 because that's what we could do administratively. So we started the project. If you're curious of what they're doing, it's essentially from Eastern Road north to State Route 76, or I mean I-76. They had started some work in there. Part of the problem we had is if you go further north and come south on 21 at like 261, just north of 261, you can see there was a tree that fell. There's some dangerous. We just felt like we had to address it, and this was the only way we could find to try
I
to
can't remember
address
the
it.
last time it's been cleared.
Cleaned up.
It's been a long time, so.
And we have a plan to do $25,000 to $50,000 annually, however far that can get us, because we have a large stretch of highway that we have to cover.
So does that mean the other side of the highway, you'll be coming to us shortly with that too, or?
It won't be
No,
this year, if
yeah.
I'm correct. And because
But anything of imminent danger,
we
will that be
we
taken
can
care of?
eliminate some things, Paul. We'll do the best we can. I don't have a bucket truck or a crane, and some of that's going to require
Right,
that.
okay.
We are planning on trying to eliminate everything we can on that side.
Well, I mean, I would assume if we saw something that was a huge
We can
concern,
hire,
that it would be
I
taken
have some
care of
budget to
some
hire
way.
that out if it's,
Right. Right.
very selective.
Okay.
Sounds like we're already doing this with this company currently. So I guess my question is, and since we don't have anybody else stepped up with a proposal or a bid, why aren't we looking to waive the readings on it?
I mean, I don't have a problem waiving the readings, but
I mean,
Well, I think we'll try to find. I know we did get 2 quotes from the prior. We'll bring those forward.
I have a list of them. I'd be glad
Yeah,
to provide
we'll bring,
counsel.
but they're exorbitant. I'm just going to warn you, they're like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think one was $150,
Well,
if I'm not
Extreme
mistaken.
Tree, they initially bid the job from Eastern to going northbound to the Copley line, and it was at 120, and it was a clear cut. What they're doing now is a little more selective, not as far in, only 30 feet instead of the full to the fence. And then Barberton Tree, I think it was 140,000. And then I had at least 4 other companies that said they were going to give us a quote. Took them out to the job site, ran it with my truck, went off on the berm, showed them exactly what we were talking about. And I tried multiple times. I had my office manager follow up and could not get a price. So,
okay.
but yeah, I'll send them over.
Okay.
We'll get them counsel.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to add ordinance number 36, 2020. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter H, Norton Acres Storm Sewer Design. Ms. Whipke?
Another topic. Thank you, Mr. President. This is actually an area out near the Norton Acres package plant to where we had well, we still have a stormwater issue that's rushing through, and there was some damages done. The culvert going underneath the street, the piping going through that's been getting washed out. The stream itself right along there and behind homes in Norton Acres, it's a lot of erosion going on, pulling down trees, and this is what this is for, is to try and get this, a design to get this taken care of for a price of $46,800 by, is this CT?
Yes.
By CT. And we're looking to get an OPWC grant for this as well. We need to put in the application. So do we need to look at waiving any readings on this, or?
Maybe the last reading, and just so we're clear, Barberton is participating in this project. The reason you're using CT is that is who does their sewer work. They're doing a sewer project in that area at the same time. They're going to contribute $50,000 to the project. So I could almost, I don't want to say guarantee that we're going to get our funding, but provide that it's engineered, we'll have participation from multiple entities, and it's a combined project, I think will be very well suited for financial support.
Score very well.
Yes.
CT, is that the one that worked up on Clark Mill?
No, CT does all the sewer work for Barberton.
Okay. So we're looking to waive the last reading anyway.
Yes.
So we have so I'm making a motion to add ordinance 37, 2020 to next council agenda, looking to waive the third reading. And I don't believe this has emergency language. Do we need it?
No, I think it'll be okay with that.
And I'd also, can we add the price actually into the verbiage for the ordinance?
Sure.
I like to have them in ordinances, remind you, so I don't have to go wading through all that paperwork, looking for the monies.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'll second that. There's a motion and a second to add ordinance number 37, 2020 to the next agenda for its first reading. Is there any further discussion or questions?
This is just for the design, correct?
There's some construction administration in there as well. I think it was $13,600. But it's for design, evaluation, because they're trying to figure out, they're going to do some televising of the storm sewer lines to see what they really need to do. So there's some investigation in it as well.
Any further questions? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter I, South Medina Line Inspector, Ms. Whipke.
Okay, this is going back to working on the Medina Line project, and this is for an inspector. And since this is an ODOT project, we want it inspected, so we're looking at hiring DLZ through ODOT, I'm guessing. And we can't use GPD as we would like to do because they were designing on the project, as I understand it. And this is for an amount not to exceed $23,802. So with nothing else with that, I motion to add ordinance 38, 2020 to council's next agenda. Also looking to waive the third reading. And it does contain emergency language.
I will second that. Again, using an inspector because in the past we've paid dearly for it, so it's better to pay little money up front and have an inspector there to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing rather than have to try and fix it later. So, any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter J, 2020 Road Program Inspector, Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is where we're actually going to be using GPD group for the professional for engineering, and they've been working with, this is outside of their annual contract that they have with us for engineering. This is for inspecting the 2020 road program as we're going along to make sure that those roads are done correctly. And our ordinance itself, I believe it says not to exceed $29,890. while that's going to get changed to $27,890. It was less than that. Is that?
So when I initially talked to Mr. Slago about this proposal, he said to use last year's. I had prepared the ordinance using last year's language, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, the price came in lower. And it's a time and material, so whatever the hourly rate for the inspector is, if he's only here 2 weeks, then that's what he gets paid. And it'll be the same for DLZ. They only get paid for the amount of time that they're here.
But we're not looking to it cost any more than that. Could
Correct.
be even less than
Yes.
the 27.
The
but
goal is
which it'll
less.
Go back. Okay. Don't need any emergency language on it. We don't need to waive for this.
No, the bids they come back Friday for the annual paving project. We'll have 30 days to award that contract, so we'll be okay. It's good that this is going to be in a reading. It'll be a reading ahead of everything, so we're okay.
At this time, I motion to add ordinance 39, 2020 to council's next agenda for first reading.
I'll second that. Is there any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter K, engineering services for Cherrywood Drive and Butternut Drive. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, now this is another one that kind of got me. What's a lump sum base fee? Is that because this is actually covering two roads, Butternut and Cherrywood, that they're calling it a lump sum?
I mean, that's the amount to design both streets.
Okay, it just sounds
Lump sum
odd.
payment, yeah.
Okay, and this is for a price of $58,000, the lump sum fee to, as I understand, they're actually going to tear up the roads. An estimated project construction cost of $900,000 or 1,860 feet of the reconstruction of both those streets, of which will be looking at stormwater as well as the sewer lines there, which, okay, that's brought me up a question. After looking at what we're not going to talk about tonight, I guess, but that has a package plant there in Brentwood as well. Yes, and that's gone now.
It's not. I believe I just read in the paper that the contract was let by Barberton at their last council meeting.
Okay. Are we going to have to come back then and do something else, or is that going to be kind of wound up in this? Laterals or anything on that we can foresee at the moment? I know it's kind of hard since it's...
Not on this project, but we are going to get Barberton's participation to help better our scoring.
And then we're looking to get some grant funding on this as well, so we need to get it done. So are we looking to waive anything? Do we have a time limit?
We have time. We're fine.
Grant funding on the entire project.
Yes. It's OPWC. It's part of the OPWC project.
Okay.
So at this time, I make a motion to add ordinance 40, 2020 to council's next agenda. Don't need to waive readings, and there is no language. I think that would be about it.
I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion regarding ordinance 40, 2020?
Yes, Mr. President, I've got a question. As I recall, Butternut was done last year, wasn't it? And it was one of the worst roads in all of Ward 3. And now we're redoing this. What did I miss?
I don't believe Butternut was done last year.
I don't think it was.
It was like the worst then. I was almost certain that was redone. So you've got it in there, so I'm assuming that it wasn't, but that was not on my radar.
Longwood was done. And I thought Longwood and Driftwood were done in Creekside.
I think that's right.
I don't believe Butternut.
I don't think it was
and Cherrywood.
Butternut and Cherrywood.
I will confirm, but
I can tell you they're both falling apart.
I have several patients that lived on Butternut, and I got thank yous for the roads, so I kind of wondered, if we can clarify that. I'm all in favor of getting good roads and doing it the right way, but that one was not on my radar. I didn't go down that road this year. I did go down Longwood. I did go down Cranwood, Cherrywood, Driftwood, and I rated all of those, but I was certain that Butternut was done. So if you can clarify that, that was fine.
Maybe it was just a quick fix.
It could have been a
Maybe
patch.
this is a little bit more in-depth, it sounds like.
Patch job, yeah.
We're trying to avoid those, I thought.
We are now.
Well,
Any further discussion regarding letter K? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whipke?
yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes. Letter L, Ms. Whipke.
Well,
I think we're going to wait on that. aren't we?
yeah, just unless Mr. Fowler wants to inform us anything on it, we really don't have anything to work with for L.
Give them a preview.
And
I mean,
we'll be looking at it more next week.
What we'd like to do is maybe get a little information now, and then if we get more information, we'll take a look at it in committee of the whole and add it next week.
So when Barberton was installing the main sewer line and as part of the Norton Acres package plant, we discussed on the council floor putting in laterals because our code says that we would put laterals into the people's property. So we asked Barberton to proceed under the understanding that we would cover those costs. The $40,000 that is presented to you is to cover those costs. That does provide our residents a benefit. There's some things that we asked for, some matting, and when they had to run a lateral, they had to put a new culvert in. So both of those costs, I feel strongly, should be on us because we requested those laterals and the matting. So the total was about $39,000 and change.
I know one of the things we discussed, and we've discussed a number of times when we're putting in sewer lines, is making sure that the laterals are there ahead of time so that we're not tearing up roads when people want to hook in and things of that nature. So that comes as no surprise, that we wanted that done.
If I could, we are talking about the sewer line that goes from the Norton Package Plant to Barber Road.
Yes. So along the pike where it came down the stream and cut over to our property, yes.
So I also would want the laterals put in, absolutely, anytime we do a sewer. But are there residences there? I don't remember, maybe I'm forgetting, but I don't remember there being any residences along that line.
There were, I think, there's several. I think, what did I say, 6?
Where are they? Didn't this project go through Clark Mill Sand and Gravel and across the racetrack area and everything? There's no houses in that area.
No, it went north or south a little bit more onto our property.
You mean south of
South of the
Clark Mill,
racetrack.
south of Clark Mill Road, before it gets to Barber Road, there are residences down in there?
No, so our property was the previous property that we sold, the Mungo property. It comes clear to the Mungo property
Right.
and then goes to Barber. Along that, there's 4 to 6 houses.
Oh, okay. I
that
didn't realize there was any
needed
houses
connect.
Fowler,
down
maybe
in
you
there.
can provide them a map for the next meeting as
Well,
well.
that's what I
Where the
was
laterals are.
asking about.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem at all with the laterals. I think they should be put in, absolutely. And yeah, if it's our responsibility to pay for them, of course we got to pay for them. But I couldn't visualize where the houses were.
I think, yeah, and just so you know, I think it's our intent to take a look at this in committee of the whole at the regular council meeting. So if we can get all that information so that people can ask any questions ahead of time if they need to, we'll discuss it at the meeting and hopefully add it onto the agenda next week.
And I'll also be asking to add the paving for Medina Line.
Okay. All right. Anything further under committee of the whole? All right. Topics for next work session. I'm sure we'll be having some things coming from administration. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
I don't like you being this close to us, man.